Now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:07 now on this Tuesday morning in your nation's capital, coming off of our very busy Memorial Day festivities and then hitting the ground running to get our work done this final week of May. And we're here for you. Coming up at 6:35, Hung Cao running for Senate in Virginia with a pretty huge endorsement in his back pocket. He'll talk all about that. At 7:35, Peter Schweitzer on, well, some of the details we're about to share with you moments from now. At 8:05, Byron York, Washington Examiner on the Trump trial's final days. And then at 8:35, Mary Margaret Olahan. You know those Irish Catholic girls. Their names. Mary Margaret Olahan. She's got a brand new book out today called D-Trans, True Stories of Escaping the Gender Ideology Cult. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Julie.
Good morning.
So let's show you some more developments that have come out here with regard to the Biden family scandals, dealings with China, and what appears to be witness tampering. Let's start with that. Hunter Biden is facing a criminal trial right now because of his apparent deception on a federal form that you have to fill out when you purchase a firearm. He testified on that form that he was not under the influence of any drugs or dealing with any drugs, and of course he was. Mm-hmm. It appears. How he's going to plead not guilty to that, I'm not quite sure. It seems pretty cut and dry, but, you know, everybody has his day in court. One of the key witnesses will be his ex-girlfriend, Hallie Biden. Now, Hallie Biden...
She's just not any girlfriend.
No, she's also the widow of his brother. So she's his sister-in-law. Sorry, I just need to keep it straight here. It's like looking at the Tudor family during
Beau
the...
died.
Yeah.
And Hunter and Hallie began dating.
Right. Hallie was married to Beau. Beau died, as you know, under fire from the enemy in Iraq, I believe, wasn't it?
Stop. No. He died of a brain tumor. And it's important to also know that Hunter was married when he began this affair with his brother's widow.
Right. While she was grieving the death of her husband, she then took up with her brother-in-law. All right.
Oh.
So they're dating, doing drugs, buying guns.
Yep.
Then Hunter's freaked out about having the gun because of the feds and the drugs.
Yeah.
So Hallie gets rid of the gun by throwing it in a trash can across the street from an elementary school.
That's right.
Have I got that all right?
Yep. Nice people.
This is America's first family.
Yes.
Father of the year. Yes. So Hallie Biden's testimony obviously is going to be pretty instrumental here about what you did, what you knew, what was going on with the gun purchase, all those things. Very important stuff. Over the weekend, President Biden, the patriarch of this entire scandalous soap opera mess, President Biden made a surprise nighttime visit to Hallie Biden's home. This is days before she's serving as a witness in the trial of Hunter Biden's criminal activity. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. When you're president of the United States, kind of hard to make a surprise visit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got your Secret Service detail, you got your motorcade, you got your sweeps, you got the dogs, you got all these things. This was at 8 p.m. over the Memorial Day holiday on Sunday night. 8 days before the trial is to begin. Mm-hmm. And he stops by to have a private one-on-one conversation with the key witness in the trial.
Yeah. You know what this reminds me of, Larry? When Bill Clinton met with Loretta Lynch, who at the time was, just the head of the Department of Justice.
She was the Attorney General, and she was overseeing the investigation.
investigating the Hillary Clinton, her handling of classified information. And Bill Clinton, on a 110-degree day, just decides to climb up into her private jet.
On a tarmac in Arizona.
Tarmac, and just to have a chat, just to swap recipes.
I think they were catching up on each other's grandchildren.
Yes.
That's what
right.
I was told.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Bates, spokesperson for the White House, even Karine Jean-Pierre didn't want to field this one. was asked by the Post what was discussed and whether they talked about the upcoming criminal trial. And Mr. Bates said no, he visited her because of the approaching 9th anniversary of Beau's passing.
Right.
Yeah. So the anniversary of his other son, the one that she was married to and then ended up betraying days after his death by having sex with his
brother,
drug-addled brother.
Married brother.
Yeah, married brother. The anniversary of that passing is coming up. Coming up. It's not today. It's not yesterday. It's not tomorrow. But it is. It's approaching. Mm-hmm. And so Joe Biden decided that this was the time over a holiday weekend in the evening on a Sunday before a federal holiday that he would just scurry in there and have a quick, consoling moment with his almost twice daughter-in-law, right? It's very weird to be a daughter-in-law twice to the same person. It came real close. It's like Old Testament stuff, isn't it? So yeah, it was just a conversation about the passing of his son and her husband.
Yeah, nothing
she's
to
a
see
widow.
Here, Larry. Nothing to see here.
It really seems like witness tampering, doesn't it?
Yeah,
it really seems like obstruction of justice.
Yeah,
it seems like if Trump did something like this, it would be a bigger deal.
You'd think, yeah.
Meanwhile, there's new revelations about the Biden family's behavior in arranging for a meeting with Chinese officials.
Just no bottom.
No, there really isn't.
Just no bottom. This is so gross.
December 12th, 2017, Hunter wrote on a Chinese messaging app called WeChat. It's WeChat.
You could just say WeChat, Larry.
No, it's a Chinese app. You got to say it the right way. I get my intonation right. I know Mandarin. It's not WeChat. It's WeChat. He sent it to someone named Lu Yadong, a top. You heard me.
Good one.
Top executive at the Chinese oil giant CEFC, and arranged a meeting with then Vice President Joe Biden. Said, "Can you meet this evening early?" Hunter wrote. "My father will be in New York." Well, it turns out he was in New York because he was traveling to Connecticut for a memorial for the children who died at the Sandy Hook school shooting.
Yeah, he said that. He said, my father will be in New York also, and he wants me to attend the Sandy Hook memorial service with him, and I would like him to meet you along with my uncle Jim Biden.
Yeah.
And then you and I can talk. Let me know if that works.
So
how nice.
We're heading up to Connecticut. We're going to bring Hunter along with us, so we can mourn the deaths of school children in a school shooting, call for suspensions of constitutional rights over gun ownership while we're there.
Yeah, we're gonna take the guy who threw a gun in a garbage can that was across from an elementary school. Yeah. Makes sense. He knows a lot about it.
And while we're up there, we're going to negotiate a $10 million deal with Chinese communists that dad and brother will be involved with. But, Joe never knew anything about his son's business dealings in any way whatsoever. You're right. There's no bottom. There's no bottom.
There's
and this
just
is
no bottom.
What goes on. And listen, the man who literally wrote the book on Biden's corruption, Peter Schweitzer, is going to be joining us at 7:35, and we'll break down.
Yeah, I know we're finishing this segment up, but just really quickly, I do wonder how many of those Sandy Hook families will come out and criticize this, right? Some of them have become quite political and have no problem bashing Republicans. So it'll be interesting to see if any of them say, Joe, don't use our meetings about the Sandy Hook victims for your corrupt deals with the Chinese. I doubt it, but that would be nice.
It's 6:15.
WMAL.
Making sense of the news.
Live
from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios.
Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Miss anything? Don't worry, we've got you covered. Get today's breaking news on the Vince Colonnese Show, weekdays 3 to 6, right here on WMAL.
Well, rough couple of days there in the war between Israel and Hamas. This has to do with the ongoing strike in Rafah, the last holdout for the leadership of Hamas. There was an IDF strike that killed a couple of top Hamas senior terrorists, but the same time killed dozens of civilians. Why did that happen? Because the terrorists hide amongst civilians. They surround themselves with civilians. So if you're going to kill them, you're going to kill innocent civilians as well, who are being used as human shields. Now, Prime Minister Netanyahu actually addressed this and acknowledged that it was incredibly unfortunate. He even, I think, maybe even used the word tragic mistake that so many dozens of civilians were killed in this. But again, to reiterate what needs to be said, this is a war, and civilians die in the war, especially when the enemy uses them as human shields. And every civilian death could end today if Hamas surrendered and released the hostages. But sadly, they refuse to do that because they embrace death. They actually think they're winning the war by having more of their own civilians die. The Biden administration, of course, decided to issue a stark warning to Israel after this. The two deaths, by the way, Yassin Rabia, a Hamas commander, and Khaled Nagar, a senior Hamas official, they were the targets. They were killed. And this is what the White House said. Israel has a right to go after Hamas, and we understand this strike killed 2 senior Hamas terrorists who are responsible for attacks against Israeli civilians. But as we've been clear, Israel must take every precaution possible to protect civilians. Why don't they say that? Of course they do. Why don't they say that Hamas should take every protection to protect
why don't
civilians?
They say the real tragedy here is that the cowards, that leadership in Hamas, hide behind women and children, use civilians as shields, put their weapons in hospitals and schools and people's little children's bedrooms. I mean, why do they never highlight what Hamas does? It's only Israel.
They also, by the way, Hamas, forget about their own civilians, when they engage in an act of war against Israel or against Americans, for that matter.
They don't care about civilians.
Don't care about civilians. They specifically target civilians.
Right.
That's their goal. That's their aim. They want to slaughter as many innocent. They don't think anybody's innocent. They don't view anyone on the other side as an innocent civilian or bystander or some casualty of war. No, they're the targets of the war. So it's as typical for the Joe Biden National Security Council and the Biden White House. They have absolutely no moral compass.
None.
I would say there's a broken moral compass there, but I don't think they ever had a moral compass in the first place. Joe Biden's entire political career has been one despicable decision after another not to advance our nation or anything that is good and right or true. Every decision is made with a calculation that advances his pathetic political career, and this is just the latest one.
That's right.
Did we mention his drug addict son dated his brother's widow right after he died? And then bought a gun and then disposed. Oh, we did. I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows who we're dealing with the Biden administration. It's 6:21.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9.
News now.
On 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
6:37 now on O'Connor and Company. Thanks for tuning in this Tuesday morning, the day after Memorial Day. Great to hit the ground running here and get started. Finish up this short week, the final week of May. Coming up at 7:35, Peter Schweitzer will discuss all of those Biden scandal stories we just laid out for you. 8:05, Byron York, Washington Examiner, will give us a preview of this week's activities in the Trump trial. Should be the last week of the trial. And then at 8:35, Mary Margaret Olohan, brand new book called Detrans, True Stories of Escaping the Gender Ideology Cult. It's Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Jules.
Good morning.
We spent some time reading President Trump's postings on Truth Social with regard to Memorial Day. Let me give you one that he posted, I believe this was Sunday night, excuse me, from Donald Trump on Truth Social. Hung Kao is a highly respected retired Navy captain running to represent the great people of Virginia in the United States Senate. Combat veteran and highly decorated special operations officer, Hung Kao will be a tireless fighter to stop inflation, grow our economy, secure our border, strongly support our incredible military and vets, and defend our always under siege Second Amendment. Hung Kao has my complete and total endorsement. He will never let you down, and we will, at the same time, get rid of the worst president in the history of our country, crooked Joe Biden. That's from President Donald Trump, 10:44 p.m., May 26. Joining us right now is the man who received that complete and total endorsement, Hung Kao. Well, Hung, that's just how you wrote it out for him, right?
Exactly. No, what you judge one of his tweets by is how many caps he uses, and that last paragraph was all caps, and it was just such an honor. I mean, where else in America? Where else in America can a guy come here as a refugee from Vietnam, right? Grow up in this country and go to the best schools in the country, including the best academy. And I'm sorry for my West Point friends and Air Force Academy friends, but, you know, and then serve in the Navy and then decide, hey, you know what? I'm not done serving. I'm going to run for office.
Yeah.
And get a tweet like that. And I think the symbology also of Memorial Day. I mean, I was born into war. I fought wars, and the last person that wants to get us into another war is me.
Yeah.
And then being endorsed by the first president in 70 years who hasn't gotten us into another war on Memorial Day. So it's awesome.
Well, it's certainly a big deal, Hung, especially considering the timing. You know, we're 2 weeks away, a little over 2 weeks away from, well, I guess we're 3 weeks from today will be the primary day. I'm sorry, I'm bad at math. It's 3 weeks from today is the primary in Virginia. It is a crowded field. It's a competitive field. And oftentimes, you know, the nominee for a party will sort of stay out of it, not give an endorsement, wait to see how it goes. President Trump is going ahead and giving you the endorsement. He also doesn't like giving endorsements that don't end up being successful. So I interpret this as his impression that you're in a place to win this thing right now.
Yes, he told me, he says, you know, I'm 279-0 on endorsements. I'm like, sir, you got to be 280-0. And it is an honor.
That's great. Well, so now what is this going to mean for you in terms of fundraising, in terms of being able to sort of build the momentum for the primary?
Well, I've always been concentrating on getting rid of Tim Kaine. I mean, Tim Kaine is really a mini Joe Biden. They're both grifters who just go from government job to government job and not really done anything for this country. I mean, like I always tell people, the only thing people remember of Tim Kaine is the guy got stuck on I-95 with a bottle of Dr. Pepper during a snowstorm. That's the most memorable thing about Tim Kaine.
True.
Yeah. So I've always been concentrating on him, and he's amassed, you know, $13 million. And we have to have somebody that really can have the infrastructure to raise that kind of money to, you know, thwart off all their attacks. I mean, they've already started attacking me, through the media. Because if they can knock me out during the primary, then he can just take the whole summer off and work on other states like Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, and Montana. So they've been coming after me hard in media. And, you know, having President Trump's endorsement has been so, you know, pivotal, and getting all these, you know, text messages and donations just in the last 24 hours has been amazing.
You know, I'm glad you mentioned the fact that nobody knows who Tim Kaine is. You know, I will never forget during the COVID shutdowns how Tim Kaine didn't care about parents and the struggle of parents and the struggle of kids. And now, you know, years later, we see the cost. The kids are really continue to struggle, both educationally and emotionally, and he still doesn't care. You have always been a champion for parents and have always been a champion for education. How can you convey that to parents who might be on the fence right now, but are still afraid? Many parents are still afraid that if we have another COVID situation, it could happen again. How can you convey to parents that you, unlike Tim Kaine, will be there for them?
That's a great question, Julie, because, you know, my parents, when we came here to this country, my parents said, hey, they can take away your money, they can take you a position in life, but they can never take away the knowledge that's in your head. That's why education was so important for us. And during COVID, I mean, we were fighting not just the COVID shutdowns, but also fighting the lack of meritocracy at schools like Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology. My alma mater that went from number 1 to number 5 and just a month ago dropped down to 14. Yeah. But also look at COVID. Also, under President Trump, we had the Defense Production Act, which would have built 6 factories down in Southwest Virginia, which, to produce these latex gloves. And right now, 98% of all latex gloves are made outside the United States in none other than mostly China.
Jeez.
And right, and we had the ability to build 6 factories. They're ready to go right now. All they need is one more installment, and they can open up. And Tim Kaine refuses to help them. And I brought this to the forefront through Breitbart, and Breitbart actually has done 4 stories on this to highlight Southwest. I mean, we could have built 25% of the required latex gloves in Southwest Virginia, create 2,500 jobs and $1.3 billion in revenue. I've been championing this for Southwest Virginia, in case we have another pandemic or another emergency. But also, these latex gloves touch every American from your emergency response first responders like
Sure.
my wife, who's an EMT, to your surgeons, but also meat packers, food service attendants. I mean, this is very important. And Tim Kaine refuses to step in and help Southwest Virginia.
Absolute insanity. We're speaking with Hung Cao, who just got President Trump's endorsement for the Republican nomination for Senate. Captain Howe, you're a retired 06 officer, captain in the Navy. You talk about foreign policy stuff a lot. Here on the day after Memorial Day, we just talked about how Joe Biden and the Biden administration is trying to put pressure on our allies, France and England, to not publicly rebuke Iran over their development of nuclear weapons. Plus, you had Rashida Tlaib, a member of Congress, speaking to some group funded by the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. That's a terror group that's been recognized as a terror group by our country and other allies. You almost get and you hear nothing from Tim Kaine about this at all. You get the feeling that some politicians in this country at the highest levels are really working for our enemies.
No, it does feel like that. And Tim Kaine, I call him election time Tim Kaine. You don't hear him. He's like a cicada. He comes out every few years, as we're about to get infested by cicadas.
Yeah.
But, he comes out every few years to show his face up in there and go around the Commonwealth of Virginia. But really, in the background, he's just a rubber stamp for Joe Biden. And this is why we're tired of this. We're tired of these grifters that just stay in office for years. Go in there, do your job, and get out and pass it on to the next person. And don't forget that there's 11 Marines, 1 soldier, and 1 sailor that's in Arlington right now because of Joe Biden abandoning them in Afghanistan and abandoning our allies in Afghanistan. Yeah. He didn't tell the British that we were getting out. He just left them behind.
All right, Hung, listen, if anybody listening to O'Connor and Company this morning on WMAL, if they're fired up about the fact that Donald Trump just gave you his full endorsement, what should they do to get involved in your campaign?
First of all, they have to go vote. I need your vote on June 18th. So, that's 3 weeks from today. And also, I go to hungforva.com, that's HUNGFORVA.com, and just see what we're all about and support us. I mean, it's going to be an expensive race. Tim Kaine, like I said, he was the money man for the DNC. He was the chairman for a few years. But, we can do this. We can get people out there. And I'm telling you right now, Virginia is fired up. I've been all over the Commonwealth, and they're very excited.
All right, Hung Cao, thank you very much for joining us. And get out there, knock on doors. It's time. 3 weeks to go.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
It is 5:46. It is 6:50 now on O'Connor and Company. That is a big deal, I sort of I want to be honest. I sort of expected Donald Trump to stay out of the Virginia nomination race here, just like Governor Youngkin has decided. Let's let the Republicans decide. I'm not going to jump on one candidate
honestly,
or the other.
There was a couple months ago, there was some news that the Trump administration or the Trump campaign was going to focus on Virginia. He felt Virginia was winnable, so I'm not surprised.
Well, and he clearly thinks that one of the ways to make Virginia in play, as Governor Youngkin just said, Virginia is in play, and he's going to be campaigning for President Trump here in Virginia. Should Hung Cao win the nomination now after that endorsement, you better believe that Trump will be here campaigning with Hung Cao as well.
Right.
Quite a bit. So like I said, I think it's great for Hung. That is fantastic. That's obviously, I think that's going to make a difference in the campaign. It's got to. I haven't seen polling. I don't know how close things are.
I don't know either, but I will tell you, Virginia Democrats have just gone nuts. So I think it's a great state to highlight. I mean, from everything of wanting to jail parents to.
I think you're right.
I mean, the porn in schools. I mean, the Virginia Democrats have really lost their minds. Well, so I think they're a great example of what happens when.
If you think of every Democrat who has won statewide in Virginia, they always run as a moderate. They always run either middle of the road or conservative. Doug Wilder was campaigning for Glenn Youngkin by the time this last election came around. He because Terry McAuliffe had gone so far to the left. Terry McAuliffe is the last Democrat in recent memory that I can remember who ran statewide as a Democrat by being a insane leftist. But by saying, parents shouldn't have to say that. He was just all in. He was all in for the new Democrat Party. When he first ran, he wasn't like that. Ralph Northam was just a country doctor who was just trying to get along and make sure everybody was,
and just wore the white hood for parties.
That's right. Exactly. So, you're absolutely right. I don't know how Tim Kaine tries to, reinvent the Tim Kaine from 3 Tim Kaines ago at this point.
What the Republicans need to do in Virginia and what Trump needs to do in Virginia is remind voters of Kathy Tran, who and Governor Northam, who said a baby can be born alive and you can basically kill it. They need to remind voters of Elizabeth Guzman, who said we need to jail parents who don't instantly, agree to the transition of their children. Yep. They need to remind them of Danica Rome, who killed Sage's Law that would have protected children against trafficking. There are some really demented members of the Democrat Party in Virginia, and voters need to be reminded of it because they're supported by the larger Democrat Party in Virginia.